Okay, we are live. Welcome to Beyond the Page, everyone. I'm Jennifer Crosswhite. I am an editor and book coach, and we have Stephanie Feger, marketing PR for your book. She is one of the marketing PR gurus from Empowered PR. It'll be an interesting day today. This is what this is what happens.
So,
But
Jen, so let's just talk for a minute about your dedication to your craft. And right before we press go live, Jen is dealing with a horrible migraine. But she's like, we are talking to our people.
We're going to talk to you guys today. It can be very entertaining. You never know what might actually happen today.
Sweet friend. My gosh. Oh my gosh.
Before we get too far, here's one thing I have to make sure we cover today. The mug for today. So I have to laugh because you always laugh about all the different mugs I have. So I brought out this special mug, and this is one of those color changing mugs. And so I have hot water in it to show you. So this was actually one of my clients sent it to me. This is her character from her children's STEM book called this is Haley Harper. And I love the quote. It says, "Science is like magic, but real, except I always say writing is actually like magic," right? It is amazing. But as soon as this cools down, it'll turn black. As you can see, the handle's black. So it'll disappear.
No.
Everything will disappear. So you put hot water or hot coffee or tea or whatever in it. And it's normally looks like a black mug. And then when the heat comes in, it reveals what's under it. So
shut the front door.
Isn't that cute? That's so fun.
It's so cute. It is so freaking cute. And I have to ask you, like, first of all, I need to figure out how to do that. I want one of those. But I also need to ask you, where in the world do you store your gazillion mugs?
So, we have a cupboard. It was one of those, it's up in the, the upper level cupboards, and it has glass doors on it. And so I thought, well, let's just put, all the fun glassware and mugs and stuff in there. So they all fit. I mean, it's like 2 shelves worth, but
yeah, I have like about the size of a 1.5 by 1.5.
Yeah. Not as much room.
Right. Yeah. So I'm living with my mama bear one today.
I love the mama bear one. I do have a mom one. I almost pulled that one out today, but I thought I would pull this one out because it's getting hot enough to not want to drink coffee twice in the morning, right? I have my first cup, but it's getting a little hot that instead of the second cup, like I might maybe make it iced coffee or iced tea or something. But so I thought, we got to get the color changing mug in though. We got to get that one in. So
that is awesome. And can you tell us the author that sent it? What's her book so that we can?
Yeah. So Haley Harper, Science Girl Extraordinaire, and the author is Tracy Borgmeyer. So if you have elementary age kids who have any remote interest in science at all, this is fantastic because I don't know if you ever read the Encyclopedia Brown books when you were growing up, how he was always like this kid detective. He solved mysteries. Well, Haley Harper is a lot like that, but she solves mysteries using science. And so every book has a different science focus, which is really fun. And it's just entertainment. And, kids really relate because she's another kid. And she's obviously makes kid mistakes. And, all those kind of silly things that happen to kids, fighting with siblings and growing up and the little crushes that you have and the friendship conflict and all of those kinds of life drama as well. So I think
there's 5 books.
Five or 6. I can't remember. But super cute. So I highly recommend them. But yes, and you can obviously get them from Amazon.
And my other question, because I'm looking right now on Amazon, because I do have 2 children who are in that space.
Yes.
Actually, all 3 of mine would. It's about a female, Haley Harper. But do you think that my son, who's in 4th going into 5th, would be interested too? Like, is there enough?
I think so. There's boy characters in there as well. And I think they would enjoy it.
Okay, secret. They don't watch our LinkedIn lives, so they will not know. But now I know. We have a trip coming up in August, and I think I'll buy the series and take it with us, and they can, as a family, rotate through all the books.
That would be fun. Yes, I'll have to tag Tracy and tell her we talked about her book today. Her books.
Absolutely. Oh, see,
Yeah,
books are just like, they're just amazing. I just
they really
love them.
are. They're
Just
just
love them.
it's fantastic. I mean, and especially as a parent, books are great ways to get information to your kids that they may not know. You want them to have this information, but this is kind of a sneaky way of getting it in under the guise of entertainment. I think, was it Mark Twain or was it C.S. Lewis? I don't know. Some famous author had made some sort of quote about there's no limit to the amount of things you can sneak in under the guise
Mm.
of entertainment, right? So you can get
Mm.
all sorts of things snuck in
It
there, kind of
is,
like
and for
putting.
those who right, and I think you know this, but others who are listening or today or later may not know this. My daughter wasn't able to speak and could not speak until she turned 2, and we went through a long process of her uh, getting the muscle strength in her mouth to be able to speak the words she was thinking, and that translated into struggles of her reading. And I share all of this to say, last year we went through a 9-month process of tutoring to help her gain the confidence and connect the dots in her mind with the words coming out.
Mm-hmm.
She just came to me a couple days ago talking about our vacation in August, and she said, Daddy and I have a challenge. And I said, what is it? She said, uh-oh, I can hear you, Jen.
That's okay.
Daddy,
Yeah,
she said, Daddy and I have a challenge. I'm going to take 10 books on vacation and I'm going to read it all.
love
Mama,
it.
do you remember when it would take me a whole week to read one book? Now I can read a book in less than a day. And it just made me
I
yeah.
love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Reading opens up such a world,
It
and that's such an amazing, what a great accomplishment. How
And I'm
cool
so
is
proud
that?
of her.
Yes.
I'm so proud of her and proud of her diligence. She's loving the Magic Treehouse books.
Yes, my kids love
And
those books.
yep,
Yes.
they were before my time. I'm kind of mad because I think I would have loved them too.
Yeah, I would have too as a kid. I mean, what's better than a book, a treehouse with books that are magic that take you
Thank you,
places? Like,
places.
how cool is that? Like, that's literally what books do. They literally take you someplace else.
It's amazing. I heard her talk to a friend that lives in the area just in passing about who her favorite author was. And she said the author of the Magic Treehouse books. I can't think of the name right now, but she said that one. And then she goes, wait, second to my mama. Of course, she hasn't read my book yet, because
Right.
she's a little squirt and mine is probably too heavy for her. But again, it's just how cool is that? And Jen, your kids probably say the same thing. Like, we're authors, we're pretty cool, and there's a lot of authors out there that are really cool.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. My son, of course, I'm sure will never read my books, but my daughter has started reading some of them, and some of her friends have, and so that's always it's kind of a fun.
That is amazing.
Conversation thing. So
that is amazing. And just so you know, I have every intention of, when you come to my neck of the woods, for you to bring a copy of all your books, and I will buy them from you because I need them in my stash and I need to be reading them.
I love it. It'll be fun.
And I'm picky. I want signed copies.
Okay, we can make that happen.
When we work with authors, I get
Yes.
very entitled that I want signed
Yes.
copies from the people I read.
Yes.
Isn't that insane?
I love it. I love it. That is a wonderful thing to collect. Is I have a whole section of my shelf are either my clients or my author friends, but it's signed copies of their books that are just a whole section on my shelf, and it's just fun. It's like seeing your friends sit up there. So
I know I've got this
thing.
section right here are all authors I've had the ability to help. There's another section below you can't see, but they're all authors I personally know, I've helped.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can get them signed, they're signed.
I love it. It's
I
the
know,
best.
I just got one in the mail today. Made me all excited.
I love it. It's the best. It's the best.
It is. It is. So what are we talking about today?
Endorsements. What are they? How do you get them? Do they really work? All that kind of fun thing. This is something that actually authors end up with a lot of angst over endorsements. So this is actually falls. I tell authors, start on this as soon as you can. So sometimes in the process with me, in the editing process or the coaching process, where at the beginning we will talk about who might endorse your book. But I would say that this probably is something that falls pretty heavily in your camp because it's part of the marketing process. So what tips? Well, let's first talk about what is an endorsement. Let's talk about that because sometimes people don't know. But an endorsement is sometimes if you look at the front of a book. Do I have one actually on here? We brought up this book last time, Thinking Fast and Slow. At the very bottom on here, you can't read it on the camera, but it says a masterpiece. This is one of the greatest and most engaging collections of insights into the human mind I have ever read. And it's by William Easterly of the Financial Times. So it's a little wonderful little bit of praise, usually by somebody with a name well known enough that your target audience would recognize it. So the fact that I don't know who this person is, but he's from the Financial Times. So that is someone that would make some credibility to this. Now that's different from, if I open the cover, you see a lot of little praise blurbs in here, which is people who read the book and said really nice things about it or how it was helpful. And these are actually, of course, this is a big name author. So he's got some big name people in here, Boston Globe, New York Times, stuff like that. But for many authors, you will see reader comments like from reviews and stuff like that. Sometimes you'll see those in there. But these are called more like praise blurbs, a little bit different than the endorsement, which is usually on the cover. So that's kind of my thing.
And it's a good point. Actually, I'm going to use two examples on my end because I think where you could start is by capturing what goes in that praise section. And then sometimes you can pull from that a beautiful endorsement for your cover. Yes. So this is a book I just helped with. The Promise of Psychedelics. It's all about science-based hope for better mental health. And what we used for their kind of puff quote or their testimonial or their endorsement was, again, like you mentioned, from somebody who's trusted in the space that other people go, oh yeah, well, if that person is down for it, then I should be down for it. Not every book has that on the front or on the back, but some do. In my book, I'm going to acknowledge I've got some I don't have endorsements on the front or back, but I do have them in the praise section. And it includes people like, and I'm bringing mine up, Jen, because you're going to laugh. You ready? It's important when you're thinking about endorsements and these types of testimonials that are built in your book. You're thinking about your target audience, where you might need somebody to give credibility if you're trying to break into the space. Right. So I have stuff from other authors or others who are in who write books about similar topics. I also have my own book has a lot of Christian elements to it. So I have somebody who is a senior leader at a Baptist church, and I also have my own priest, and that was intentional because I wanted people to know that my message has broader reach than just a Catholic message, and I'm Catholic, so that was important. I have local media in here, a couple of big TV personality in the area, a publisher of a magazine in the statewide magazine. But the one that you're gonna laugh. Oh, I have my principal that I went to. The reason that I put that was also intentional because there's a chapter in my book that I talk about a sexual harassment situation I had that happened while I was in high school. It happened at high school, but it happened while I was there. And I wanted to always go back and speak at my high school about it. And guess what happened, Jen? I did that.
Yes.
I did it.
I love it.
Indoors. But here's the one that's funny. This is the funny one. And I tell people it's funny. And there's a reason. If you didn't know the reason, whatever. My OBGYN is in here. And I laugh about it, but it was so important to me because the first chapter of my book is about a miscarriage that I had. And I wanted her in there, number one, because she was a big part of my journey, but I also wanted her praise because there's potential that the message I shared could be something that could open doors to speak to, conferences that are within her group, within her wheelhouse. So yeah,
Yes.
definitely be thinking of your target audience when you're asking. Now, I don't know about you, Jen, but some people, this gives angst because they don't know who to ask, or they're nervous to ask, or they have like, they want to ask big people and then they get nervous about that too. And I
Right.
always say, shoot for the stars. There was a lady that I did ask, and she is Regina Brett, one of my, and actually I'll have to tag her here because I fell in love with this author. She was, I believe, a New York. Hold on, Jen. I'm gonna get it because I have her books up here. She is a New York Times. Is it New York Times? No, hang on. I don't know. She was a columnist. I feel like it was at one point for New York Times or something at that level. Anyways, when I read her book, I got inspired, and that is what that is what gave me the inspiration on how I write my chapters.
Mm-hmm.
I read it and I'm like, oh my gosh, my hang up was how do I keep the journey going? But her book did that for me, and it changed my life in the content, but also the writing life. I did reach out to her to write an endorsement, and it was a stretch. She didn't do it, but she did circle back. And she responded, and her life was busy. She wasn't able to accomplish the time frame. But can I just tell you, I was on cloud 9 hearing from her.
Love it. That's so great.
I still follow her, so I have every intention of going back for the next book.
Well, and you bring up a really good point, is that a lot of times, yes, a bigger name person might be really busy. And so it doesn't hurt to ask for them, but just know that it's not necessarily personal. You know, when I worked in traditional publishing, I had to make a hard and fast rule that I didn't do endorsements and I didn't do reviews, because it was either going to be from someone within our own publishing house, then it might look like favoritism. And if it was against a competitor, then, you know, it just got to be a really sticky situation. And so sometimes you will ask people who are in kind of those sticky situations, or they just really are busy. I mean, it is a lot. It can be a lot to ask somebody to read your book. Sometimes people, just based on who you are and their relationship with you, will blurb it without having to have read the whole book, right? They might just read part of it or something like that. I mean, that's certainly fine for people that know you. But I think what you're bringing up is the relationship. It's never too early to start building those relationships and thinking about the people in your relational world, fellow authors, other people in the industry, whatever it might be. Those relationships are going to make it much more likely that you will get a yes from someone who really wants to see you support. But because it can take a long time, you definitely want to give them as much time as possible. So it's okay to give them an early copy that hasn't been fully edited yet. Certainly you've gone through the main developmental edit, which is the structural edit, but it might not have gone through copy edit or a proofread yet. And just let them know this is obviously not completely edited yet, but this should give you the main, nothing substantive is going to change. We're talking about, you know, punctuation and typos and those kinds of things. But the main thrust of the message is there, and they can read through that and give their thoughts on it. And that can be super, super helpful for, you know, just getting that little extra oomph right in your book and getting it there.
Yeah, there's two things. So yes, exactly. Give them as much time as you can give them, the better, because everybody has good intentions. They want to help you, but life gets in the way. But there are two things that I was going to share that stem from what you just described. The first one is that there are going to be people who, because of your relationship, want to support you in this way. But maybe they're not able to read the whole book. But they can stand by your character and your message. And maybe their life is busy. So I actually found, for me, with my first book, I pulled together what are some examples of what I would want someone to do. And I would put it in my message at the bottom saying, listen, this is my request. Would you be down for it? I didn't send this to everybody. But then for some people, I would say, I know you're busy. And if you have the ability to take a peek or not, but you want to still support in this way. I just want to show you some examples of what would be really strong
Yes.
endorsement for me. And you're welcome to steal it. And you
Yeah.
know, I had about
Right.
two or three who did, and they stole.
Yes.
And I say stole. It was more, they were like, I just don't know what to write. You're the writer. I'm
Yes.
not. And I
Yes.
can stand by this. So what can you do to make it easy for them?
Yes, that is such a great point. If you can give them some samples, if you can give them some wording that they just have to tweak and make their own, that's so much easier than asking them to come up with the words themselves. So it's not something most people, they don't do that all the time. So giving them that extra, make it easy on them. I think that's a great option to give them.
Yeah, especially my OBGYN. She's never been asked that.
Right. Yes.
What an odd request, but I love you, Stephanie. The second thing I want to share is a tip of advice that I received when I worked in the nonprofit sector. I used to have to go, and I may have shared this already, Jen. So if so, consider it double shared. And in education, share it twice. It means you should write it down, and it's going to be on the test. So, so maybe this is going to be on the test. But in nonprofit, I did marketing and PR and communications in nonprofit, but we were still required to help fundraise. And I will never forget a day that myself and a group of volunteers walked the streets of Louisville going business to business, asking if individuals wanted to either make a donation or be a sponsor or whatever. And it was so incredibly uncomfortable for me. I hate sales. I hate asking for money. I hate asking for anything. I can do it all myself. I don't need that, but I had to do it. And we would take turns on who was going to to take lead. And one of the volunteers looked at me because she could kind of see me sweating, like breaking out in hives. Like, I don't want to ask them. It's like I'm going to get something, or like they're going to I don't know, hate me for the rest of my life if I ask them. She's like, Stephanie, we need to change your perspective. She said, if you don't ask, you are making a decision for them. If you don't ask, you're making the decision that the answer is no. But what if we walk in? And I happen to work for a nonprofit that supported the fight against cancer. So she said, what if we walk in and somebody is themselves dealing with a cancer diagnosis, have a family member that was recently diagnosed or passed, and they just hadn't figured out what to do with that? And what if you are now giving them a conduit, an avenue to do something, and they've always wanted to do it but couldn't? But you didn't ask them. You've made the decision. Don't do it. I believe that to my core, and I now bring it to everything that we do in author space. If you don't make the ask, and if you don't follow up, because listen, people who are doing endorsements are busy. Follow up, it's okay. But you are deciding already, well, they're too busy. They wouldn't be interested. Why me? Like, you're going through those questions. Don't do it. The worst they could say is no. And then you move on.
Exactly. I think that's two great points there. Give them the opportunity and follow up, because a lot of times people do get busy and forget. Obviously, if you've emailed them 3 times, that might be a sign that they just can't get to it, and that's fine. Don't be a pest, but don't be afraid to follow up, because sometimes things get lost in email and people have good intention and they just forget. So I think that's a good point. Well, this whole series that we're doing is on the parts of the book. So today we talked about endorsements, but next week we're going to be talking about dedications and acknowledgments, parts of your book that also bring in other people. What's the difference?
And they're separate.
They're different.
They're different.
Yes. How do we come up with those? What makes them? So we'll talk about that next week. And again, that could be a really great way to get people to help promote your book by who you acknowledge. So anyways, we'll talk about
excited
that
about it.
next week. That will be fun. And the book this week is the same. We talked about the cover of this last week, right? And then I brought up today, talked about the blurb. But one of the things that I thought is really interesting about this book, and I don't have an exact quote like I normally do, but the concept of thinking fast and slow is those snap judgments that you make. And like when you see a spider, you will immediately feel fear. If you are anybody in my household, Or this morning, I found a trail of ants going to the cat food. I definitely had an immediate reaction to that.
Jen, hold on. Time out because I need to add you this. There's somebody that posted something on Facebook last week of a spider, and it was a big creepy crawly anyway, but it looked like it had hair on it. He said, look closer. It has babies all over it.
Oh, no. See, that's horrible.
He did not.
I don't want to see that in my feed. No.
I'm going to tag you just because.
Oh, no. But thinking slow is like, math, right? If you have to do math, or if you have to like figure out how to get from point A to point B, right? You're reasoning things out. But the thing that I think is important about the thinking fast part is that's how people judge book covers, right? They have an immediate reaction to a book cover. Colors, images, font, all of that goes together as part of the gut instinct of how your reader is going to automatically put your book into a certain category or decide if they want to read it or not before they even go any farther. So while this is a really thick book, I'm excited to get into it because I think there's some things that we don't often think about, how many of those kind of snap judgments we make. And it's super important when we're talking about book covers. It's the first way people interact with your book. So to circle that
and if you have a good endorsement on top of that book cover,
that'll
solidify.
Yeah, it'll help pull them back into that. So all those pieces work together. And so it's not just a matter of writing your book. It's the editing, it's the packaging, it's the marketing. It is a whole process. And so thinking about that from the beginning is really, really important. So anyways,
Jen,
we like
thank
to
you for being
that.
here. Thank you for being here and sharing such good stuff today. You are a trooper, and now go get some rest. Get that headache. Tell it, say, go away.
Do something. Yeah, it's really strange. I don't get migraines nearly as much as I used to. When I lived in the Midwest, I would get them with the pressure changes. In California, we don't have that much weather. So we don't have those kinds of pressure changes. So it's a little surprising to have. So who knows, right? Who knows? But the important thing is that authors, your words have power, your book has power, and your message has power. And so together we want to invite you to come to the page and beyond, and tune in next week as we continue our discussion on the parts of the book and whatever fun things we end up talking about, because you never know what's going to come up with us.
You never know.
But we so appreciate you being here. It's been great for you guys to tune in. And you can always catch the replay as well, which is fun. So any questions about endorsements or any other things about book related, put them in the comments and we will be in there to answer them. So
absolutely, Jen. I will see you soon.
All right. You guys have a great rest of your day and we'll see you guys soon. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.